This is an RNZ podcast.
They say it takes a village to raise a child. I'm Kathryn Ryan, and here we draw on my conversations with experts on 9 to Noon to help you navigate family life. Well, what makes a new dad into a great father? A parenting program in Nelson aims to help in that process. The free 10-week course is available to all new dads, stepdads, and also includes men awaiting the birth of their first child. It's part of a Ministry of Social Development Whānau resilience program and is run by family violence specialists, FVS, Living Safe, in partnership with the organisation Perinatal Support Nelson. Agnew is the course facilitator and is with us from Nelson. Kia ora and welcome to 9 to Noon.
Kia ora, Kathryn. How are you?
I'm really well, thanks. Tell me a little bit about your background and the expertise and skill that you bring to the program.
Yeah, so me personally, I guess my background is working with family harm. That's where what my job is currently at SVS Living Safe. So I've been here about 5 or 6 years now, and previously before that I was working with groups in all sorts of different formats in terms of the justice sector and also in adventure therapy. And then personally I'm also a dad to twin 3-year-olds, so that gives me some personal insight to things.
Personal insights, for sure.
Yeah.
Twins first ups, double the shock, isn't it? That's for sure.
For sure.
Tell me a little bit more about how the pilot came about.
Yeah, well, so we're a family harm specialist organisation, and we were lucky enough to get some funding through the Ministry of Development to look at Whānau resilience, and so essentially we went out to the community and asked them what do you need to have healthier, safer families. And one of the things that really came back amongst other things was that parenting is so difficult and quite a shock. That's an area that really puts stress on families, which was not really a surprise. But when we went down further was that even mums and dads were both saying that, there's stuff for mums out there. We talk more openly, we connect more regularly around things. There's programs out there for mums, but not so much for dads. And dads are less likely to talk about things in maybe a bit more of a deeper level as well. So that really kind of set us on the scene to, we really need to plug that gap. And luckily enough, at the same time, I was also at a meeting where I was talking with someone from Perinatal Support Nelson, and they were talking about how they were seeing sort of a gap for dads as well, and they really wanted to do something about it. So we brought our expertise of working with family harm and safe relationships and working with men in groups, and they brought their expertise of, working with perinatal depression and working with mums and sort of all of that stuff that goes on in those first 2 years of life for a child. So it's worked out really well.
It's a very vulnerable time for an individual, for a couple, of course. And look, for many it goes well, and there's lots of family support, or they're really resilient and good place to be parenting. And for others, it's just an almost overwhelming experience. Wherever people are at, there are things that can help, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's such an overwhelming time of life when you have this whole new human being come into a relationship, into your finances, into your time, into your emotional and mental availability. There's a lot going on, and if you don't have the support available, some people are lucky enough; they've got lots of support around them, and that's really good. So some people have had really good role models in their upbringing, so they're able to access some of those kind of skills that they've been taught. Other people, not so much, and finding a way that we can support people to learn things, to grow their awareness, and particularly dads who are not necessarily going to come up and talk about some of these things, possibly about their role modelling that they might have received as a child and things. Having a place that they can talk about those things and share those things has been really valuable and really important. So gaining some of that support.
It's also about feelings and managing feelings, and feelings are overwhelming at this time, along with lashings of fatigue. And, again, if you don't have the skills to recognise what's happening to yourself or to someone else and the skills to manage it, then that's when we can get into dangerous territory.
Yeah. So we spend a lot of time talking about, sort of as I was mentioning before, like role modelling. What did you see? Was your dad a person who sort of went out to work all day and just left everything up to the mother, or were your parents even together and things like that? So what they come with is one thing, but then also what we can inform them about, I guess. So looking at things like lifestyle, well-being, what does your day look like? what does your emotional needs look like? Where do you look after yourself? Where do you allow time to look after your partner, the mother of the child? How do you have time just for you and the child, or just for the mum and the child, or just for you and the parent together, the other parent together? Like, all of those things are sometimes not even questions that come up because it's so overwhelming at the time. Like, you've got all these things and there's so many demands. You've got more demands and less time to do things. So a lot of the time it's just survival. So it's really a testament to the guys that have come to our group and to their family that they've allowed them to come out and actually spend this time to invest. So hopefully it's giving them skills and awareness to take forward into their future family.
So the target is dads with young kids, right, under the age of 2.
Yep.
And can you tell me a little bit more about how you've structured the 10 sessions? Like, does it build logically and progress logically? Could you explain in a bit more detail?
Yeah, for sure. So the 10 sessions, we spend a lot of time at the start just building that trust and respect, because it isn't necessarily an easy place to come and talk about some of the struggles that you might be going with. So with other people. So just building that trust and respect amongst everybody is where we start. And then sort of flowing through that, we talk about, what role model do you want to be? What role modelling did you get as a father? Balance and lifestyle. We talk about relationships, the difficulties of relationships, and how it is for the other person, and different skills and techniques, you can to help listen and understand the other person. We talk about mental health. 1 in 10 dads do suffer from postnatal depression, and I think it's 1 in 5 mums. So talking about that and just bringing that out into the open and seeing what they recognise in themselves and in the mother of the child. Talk about emotions, talk about general parenting strategies, talk about stress and the brain development, the 1,000 days, and then also what do they do to help bring calm to themselves as well as to their child or to their partner. So a whole lot of different ranges of things to be aware of, so just bringing it into the awareness, but also ways that you can then manage that.
What is it that happens? Do you ask questions?
Right,
and then perhaps the group responds. And also, how many typically do you have in a group?
Yeah, so our group is sort of probably 8 is where we're at the moment, which is quite good. For a pilot, we're quite happy with that, and hopefully it's going to build in the future. But the way the group runs is we'll ask questions and put videos up to help stimulate conversation. But once we've got that trust and respect in the group, then it's about the guys coming forward and sharing some of their own personal stories. And then what generally happens from that is things take on a life of their own, and we just help guide and facilitate that discussion so it makes sure that it stays on purpose and works in a beneficial way. So, and that is, that in itself is very, very helpful. Finding other people who are in the same situation as yourself, you can feel, you don't feel so alone, you don't feel so isolated. And getting men talking about, mental health and emotional vulnerability is really helpful. And so some of the guys are already talking about, like, I'm going back to my workplace and I'm asking my mates actually how it is, and not just taking that first answer, but actually just asking a little bit more, pushing a little bit more to get them to talk a bit more about what's going on in their families, what's going on in their own personal life, so that we can bring some of that stuff out and people don't feel so isolated and alone.
They are a range of ages. I don't think you have 10 teens there. Not at the moment anyway. And is that by conscious decision, or is it just who's presented at the moment? Yeah,
just who's sort of who's sort of interested and available. We don't necessarily going to put any restrictions on anything. So if people are interested and want to be involved, we'll find a way to make sure that can happen. So some people might need extra support outside of the group. Some people might not have the time and availability to make that happen. So whatever we can do to help support new dads coming through in whatever way, that's what we'll try and do.
What are the key themes that are coming through, either from the group or from other, work that's been done on the experience of new dads? And obviously it's as diverse as the people to some extent. But what are some of the common stuff that is really worth thinking about for supporting new fathers?
Yeah, so one of the key things, I guess, is that dads just, I'm not quite sure how to put it, they kind of feel like they don't know, or that they're redundant, or that they're useless, I guess, in some ways, like not sure of where they fit in the picture, particularly in that very first part. They're just sort of like, what am I supposed to be doing here? Sort of default to the mum. Sometimes you get in-laws, parents coming in, or other friends that sort of like possibly take over and kind of can feel a little bit like on the back foot and unsure about things. And so having a place to, recognise that that's normal to have those feelings, but you do have a place, and that you do, your bond with your child is something that's going to go on forever and ever, and you want to make sure that you're putting in the time and the effort to be there and connect with your child, and that's going to grow and develop as they recognise your voice and all those kind of things. But also you're trying to be there to support the mother, like if she's gone through a lot in terms of the pregnancy, but also in terms of like feeling overwhelmed in herself, like how do you support her, while also making sure you look after yourself. So it is a lot to do, but just trying to keep some of those key things in mind is hopefully going to help.
Is it about finding what your role is, as you say, and wanting to help sometimes, but feeling like, I don't know, grandma's turn up and she's going to do it better or whatever, or even, and also understanding the responses of your partner and interpreting those and talking about those. Yeah,
and even that relationship has completely changed now, and so where do I fit in? Am I a husband or a partner now, or am I just another person? And actually the relationship, how it can feel anyway, is that the relationship's between the mother and the child, and I'm just the spare third wheel, kind of does a bit of the dishes sometimes. So it can be very, very tricky. And so, but if you can, what we're trying to do, I guess, is just bring that awareness out. Is that how it can feel, but it doesn't mean it's how it is. And having those conversations with your partner or with the mother about, hey, where are we at, and how is this going to look going forward? What are some situations or solutions to what we can do about for this next month or two? What do you actually need me to do?
Also, not just new dads necessarily in a partnership. Of course, any number of combinations of family we have these days, and it might be a father who's not living with the mother, it might be stepfathers, foster fathers. I'm not sure, again, if you're just early in a pilot, whether you've had the full range of experiences, but can you speak perhaps to what the different experiences can be? And again, when you're a stepfather, do you feel even more sometimes like, what is my role?
Yeah, for sure. Within our group at the moment, we've got quite a diverse range of people, because we've got one guy who's chosen to become a stay-at-home dad. He's worked for a long time, and now he's become a stay-at-home dad, and the mum has gone out to work. So he's coming with one type of experience, and he's like, just managing himself and his daily work, and kind of like you said before, he was talking about, he vacuums up the hallway, and then 2 minutes later he feels like he's got to go and vacuum again because there's stuff everywhere, and all those kind of things. So how does he manage that? We've got another guy in our group who, some of our guys don't necessarily have access to their children full time either. So how they feel about those things and being able to feel like they're still a part of their child's life is important as well. Some of them are stepdads and non-biological dads, I guess. And they struggle as well, because they don't necessarily have some of that background to connect with the child, but still feel in a relationship with the mum, but I don't have a relationship with the child yet. And how do I, make sure that I stay connected, but in a relevant way? And so, there's a whole range of experiences that happen within our group, and some of them are just like first-time dads with a new child who's only 3 months old, and some of them have got children who are now 2 or 3. So the experience of the child has also increased. The difference between a 6-month-old and a 3-year-old is very, very different. And but the key things are still the same. Like, how do we communicate with the mums or the partners? How do we keep ourselves mentally and emotionally topped up and on top of our game? How do we manage just the day-to-day stuff that actually still needs to happen, while still trying to make sure that we have our own lives and our own sense of identity? And there's also, as things come along, we start to become more aware of who we are in our own upbringing, and that can bring up things as well, like some of the probably past traumas that might have come up, and we start to recognise that, and we need to do some of that work to be, the parent that we want to be.
It's a really important point, is that at certain times in life, whatever the foundation was for each of us will present itself again and again. And is this a very vulnerable time for that happening? If you did not have good experiences of parenting, or what happened in your early years with how parenting went, this is going to churn some stuff up for you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, people. Yeah, stuff that you hadn't even thought of, that, things all of a sudden turn up. And, and we talk about, intergenerational trauma, and we talk about, breaking the cycle. And I guess this is one program that what we're trying to do is to help break that cycle, to give these dads a good start to their parenting journey. And if we're doing that, then hopefully we're helping the partners and the mothers as well, but also setting up a good foundation for that child to go forward. So in the future, we're not just breaking the cycle, but we've got a whole, clean slate going forward for a lot of these children and parents.
What is it that you talk about when it comes to those times where you are so wound up that you're on the verge of losing control? This happens to both women and men under the stresses of parenting, and clearly a decision has to be made in a moment to keep everyone safe or to avoid something bad happening. And, how do you talk about that when those very, very intense moments come?
Yeah, so the times where we're really under stress and we kind of go into that fight or flight mode. And, it's building awareness. So kind of what are your stress points and what are your things that really wind you up? We've got people in the group who've talked about, their parenting journey of their childhood was all about their parents saying to them, harden up, don't show emotion, don't cry. Those kind of messages. And as we were talked just before, like that's now coming up in their own parenting, which they hadn't really realised. And so that's affecting the relationships with the mother, and it's affecting the relationships with that child. So they want to be close to the child. They want to be a good parent. But sometimes when we get into that high stress moment and there's people crying and it's really intense, I've just got home from work and I've got stuff in my brain and I can't empty it out and I've got no place to do those things, we start to be more reactive rather than thinking about things. So, we just talk about, if you can pick those moments earlier, the better, obviously. But just if you need to leave the situation, if people are crying, if the partner's finding it difficult, the child's crying, better for you to walk away and actually model what it is when stress happens, to model what it's like to actually walk away and that be okay. Whatever you need to do, is it just walk outside? Is it just walk into the next room? Is it to, go somewhere and take some deep breaths? Because 1-2 minutes later, if you catch it early enough, is enough time to then come back in a more calm state with a more rational mind where you can actually think about things and talk about things and make clearer and better decisions. So then when you show to the child or to the other people in the family is that this is the way to deal with stress and this is the way to deal with when we're in a high emotional state. And actually now that I've come back, it's a lot smoother. We can actually talk about things. Maybe there needs to be some apologies. Maybe there needs to be just a different strategy. Maybe we actually just need to walk away again because things are starting to amp up again. So getting it early and modelling what you want your child to do as well.
What are your hopes for what happens after this? Because 10 sessions is 10 sessions, and that's brilliant. But I think you were alluding to it earlier. Women often, I can think of, women in their 50s and 60s, actually, still great mates with who was in their antenatal group when their first kids were born. And that kind of ongoing connection, one suspects, that is forged out of the experience of childbirth and the early years of parenting, one suspects is more common for women than for men. Do you hope that this might be an opportunity for guys to keep up, perhaps, an ongoing kind of, bunch of mates or a support network?
Yeah, for sure. Like we're actually coming to our 10th session is next week, and actually that's one of the things we're actually going to talk about. So because we are in the pilot phase, and we hope to build off this and use this as a springboard to develop more things, or things that are actually going to be supportive in what dads want. And so, there are other agencies that do things out there with parenting, and so we hope to be able to work with them, such as Perinatal Support, and develop those kind of groups and resources. But for sure, we hope to be able to build, like, maybe it's an informal support group that meets every week. Maybe it's going out to men's sheds and developing relationships there. Maybe it's putting on activities and things so that kids and dads can come along together and just building that. And then, maybe it starts with that, informal groups that then lead on to maybe a program like ours, which is a bit more in depth as well. So what comes before is just as important as what comes after. So we definitely hope that people, or dads anyway, can continue to have conversations about how to be connected and confident parents.
And would you like to see the pilot extend beyond Nelson?
Oh, yeah, I mean, for sure, yeah. Anything that's going to help people, for sure, would be great. I mean, we're only focusing in Nelson now because that's where we're based. But I know there's other DADS programs out there in different regions and definitely in the cities and things. And if we can get some kind of connectivity, I guess, together between all of us as we grow and develop, then hopefully we can start rolling this out and providing support to other agencies and organisations to support dads in a good way.
Ngā mihi, great to talk. Thank you, Aaron Agnew, course facilitator of this program. It's just getting near the end of its pilot, a parenting program available, free 10-week course available to all new dads, stepdads, and also includes men awaiting the birth of their first child. It's been part of a Ministry of Social Development Whānau resilience program run by the family violence specialist SVS, Living Safe, in partnership with the organisation Perinatal Support Nelson.